Module 7. The two attribution formulas. Type 3 activities are attributed at 100%, so no formula is needed. For Type 1 and Type 2, adaptation finance is less than 100%, and the methodology offers exactly two ways to arrive at the number. The first is the incremental approach. In the methodology's own words, it estimates the additional costs associated with the activities required to adapt the project to climate change, against a hypothetical baseline where the project would aim to deliver expected results without addressing physical climate risks. As a formula, adaptation finance equals the cost of the activity as designed, minus the cost of that same activity designed to deliver the same expected results without addressing physical climate risks. Four things about that baseline decide whether the number survives review. It is hypothetical. It is a design that was not built, priced as if it had been. It delivers the same expected results. This is the part most often got wrong. The comparison is not a cheaper project, a smaller project, or a worse project. It is the same service, the same capacity, the same intended outcome, without the measures that address physical climate risk. It does not address physical climate risks. That is the only difference permitted between the two designs, and it must be priced by someone competent to price it. A comparison design produced by the climate consultant with no engineering authorship and no date is an assertion. Record who prepared it, when, and which quantities changed between the two designs. Worked through with illustrative figures. Suppose an MDB finances a drainage component at $15 million. The engineer prices the same drainage service, sized to the original non-climate design basis, at $12 million. The difference is $3 million, supported by bills of quantities that show which items changed and tied to the updated rainfall basis in the climate risk assessment. Adaptation finance for that activity is $3 million, 15 minus 12. Those figures are illustrative. What is not illustrative is the structure. Two price designs, one difference, and evidence linking the difference to a documented climate risk. The second is the proportional approach. The methodology defines it as adaptation finance, estimated as a proportion of the MDB finance that corresponds to the adaptation activities included in a project. As a formula, adaptation finance equals the finance allocated to the activity, multiplied by the evidenced share of that activity corresponding to adaptation. The methodology is explicit about where that share may come from. It may be informed by a range of credible sources, including assessments of the cost of adaptation in similar operations or expert knowledge on the relevant sectoral practice, together with information on the assumptions and calculations used. The assumptions and calculations travel with the percentage. A share without its basis is not a proportional estimate. It is a number. The methodology adds that the multilateral development banks will continue to share and exchange knowledge on the criteria that may be used to inform the proportional approach. That is a statement that this area is still developing, and it is worth recording as such in the register. Worked through illustratively. Suppose the structural portion of a flood protection package is financed at $12 million, and an engineering and benefit allocation analysis supports attributing 70% to the adaptation objective and 30% to non-climate service improvements. 70% of $12 million is $8.4 million. Because the activity is Type 2, the result must be under 100%, and 70% satisfies that. But the ceiling is not what justifies the figure. The allocation analysis is. The methodology does not rank the two approaches. It says that for Type 1 and Type 2, adaptation finance is estimated using an incremental approach or a proportional approach. The practical distinction is what the evidence supports. The incremental approach is used when a credible without adaptation design exists or can be priced, when the adaptation response is a physical increment that can be isolated and costed. The proportional approach is used when the adaptation and development functions are not separable into a single physical increment, but an evidenced share can be established from quantities, engineering allocation, service or beneficiary analysis, or documented sectoral practice. One test settles it in most cases. Ask whether the version of this activity that was not built can be described in engineering terms. If it can, and someone competent can price it, the incremental approach is available. If the adaptation function is distributed through the whole activity rather than sitting in a separable increment, it is not. 2 failure modes are worth naming. The first is a round percentage with no driver behind it, 50% because it seemed balanced, 30% because another project used 30. Neither is a proportional estimate under this methodology, and both are found instantly by a reviewer who asks where the number came from. The second is a baseline that quietly changes the project. If the comparison design delivers less service, the difference includes the value of that service, not just the climate measures, and the adaptation figure is overstated by exactly that amount. For every Type 1 or Type 2 activity, record the approach used, record the formula, record the value of every input, record the source of every input, and record the resulting share of the activity's finance. Then check the result against the ceiling for that type. Module 8 turns to instruments where there is no cost table to work from at all.